Wagwan Masses, welcome back to One Name Sports. And today is the part two of our Premier League end of the season roundup. Today we're getting into the biggest disappointments of the season. A lot of my biases or some of the passion that I'll be giving comes from FPL, but Fantasy Premier League is a reflection of real world performance, so it's justified. But yeah, I'll get into why some of these players just didn't look good or underperformed per their standards. But without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so starting off with the champions, hurts my heart to say it, but Raheem the Dream Sterling had a mediocre season by his standards, by our standards, by expectations. It feels like he became peripheral in what might turn out to be Pep Guardiola's Champions League winning team. He lost his place to Phil Foden. Phil Foden is the one that's operating on the left side. I know it's a kind of a change in system, but Pep is showing that he doesn't need pure goal scorers in his squad to get his optimal version of a team to play. And yes, Sterling, I don't know if it's a fatigue thing that turned into a confidence thing, but early in the season he wasn't really looking that great. He was missing a couple chances, and then he just kind of fell out. Foden has been exceptional, and he paid the price for losing per Pep's standard and rotation. So definitely a disappointing season for Sterling. Moving down from there, looking at my side, there's only one way to go. M9, Anthony Martial. To be bluntly honest, we got rid of Lukaku in order to give him the number 9. Last year that kind of paid off. There was a little friendly rivalry competition between him and Rashford, and between their competition we were able to get 20 plus goals out of both of them. I thought that he was gonna just feed this season with all the work that Bruno was doing, but some of his temperament just came back, and he was just showed up by Cavani, and now in the latter half of the season by Greenwood. I mean, he's injured, but that's not to say for 25-30 games in the start of the season that he was just not looking good. He didn't look like a man that should have the number 9 shirt on his back, and with form and the different dynamics that our different players in the forward line were giving us, he didn't have a place. He got injured with France. I don't know how he gets in the France team, but that's another thing. And we didn't need him. Like I from all the results that we've had, I don't see where Martial being our center forward would have benefited Man U's squad. Right now, I think that's the biggest need that Man U has, is just a pure modern striker. Martial doesn't look it, and that's how disappointment goes. Me, I've always been a slight pessimist when it comes to Man U, so I would prefer for him to prove me wrong than for me to have these high expectations of him and then be disappointed. You can see Arsenal fans for that. Moving on from there down the table, Leicester, their biggest disappointment for this season for me was Maddison. Again, a lot of it is not his own fault. He had a couple of injuries, fatigue. Most of these players have been playing straight back since the playing tournament in the summer last year, so no breaks, and then you have Euros coming up, so you're trying to put your best foot forward. But Maddison had not a great season. Tielemans has shown him up just by being ever present in the team. I think out of the 50 odd games that Leicester's played, Tielemans had started like 53 of them or something like that. It's something crazy. Like, this stat is high. But Maddison, even when he's played, he looked out of place. Him and Vardy weren't clicking. It was more Barnes and Vardy to start the season. Then when Barnes went down and Vardy kind of moved to the left, they found a lot of success with playing Iheanacho as a 9. His hold-up play was sensational, and they were working on that. Maddison just comes in and they don't move as fluidly as they used to. Maddison is just kind of slow. It kind of reminds me of when Pogba used to be stuck in the middle of the field. You're just moving slower than the game needs to go. So he wasn't really working. And in their FA Cup win, it just, he was holding the bench. Last year, there is no way that Maddison was going to be here. Maddison getting benched when he's healthy, it just doesn't even sound realistic. And it just shows how far he has kind of fallen. Moving down from there with Chelsea, come on, biggest disappointment of the season. It's easy to call. That's Timo Werner. There's a saying now that when you miss, you're doing a Werner. I remember a couple years back we used to call that a Cavani, but Cavani was still smacking in 25 goals a season when he was at PSG. But Werner is just missing, finding unique ways to miss. And even in the Champions League, when he scored that tap-in, there was a part of me when he was doing this to head the ball, I was like, oh, he might miss. And that shouldn't, like, the reputation that he had at RB before coming to the Prem is completely different than what he has now. He has fallen to the Chelsea striker's curse, and he doesn't look good. That's why they're talking about, looking at another striker to bring in. And it just goes to show, after you bring in somebody with Werner's reputation, a year later you're looking to maybe a Haaland or somebody to bring in, or a Kane if he's available. So, Werner, biggest disappointment of the season for me, especially on the FPL front. I thought he was going, hit some big heights, put up some Kane numbers. Wasn't to be. Moving from there, we're looking at the 5th place team, which is Tottenham at the moment, or Liverpool, one of them. I'll go with Tottenham first, and that's Doherty. Came in to shore up their right side of defense, supposed to be that flying wing back, but defensively he got exposed. He was playing a lot higher when he was at Wolves. The expectations were different, but he was being used as a high wing back, so he didn't really have to run back as much. And I think they were playing 3 at the back. I don't remember the system at Wolves, but sometimes he'd find himself in the 6-yard box, and you were getting a lot of attack in return for it. Now, funny thing about it is, especially during his signing, he is a Arsenal fan, so I don't know what it would feel like. Maybe some people can separate fandom from professionalism, but for play for the rivals of the team that you really, really love, maybe that's a factor. Maybe. But he has had a terrible season. It looks like a bust of a signing. Wouldn't be surprised if they let him go. They were supposed to bring him in to take Aurier's spot, but Aurier has, taken over, and now they're using Tanganga and just other defensive reinforcements to take over the spot. So it just goes to show that you had a pretty bad season. Moving from there, Liverpool, again, pains me. Love this baller, even though his hairline is back on that side of Mane. I don't know. Maybe a lot of it was fatigue with the squad. A lot of it is major injuries. You lose both your captain and your vice captain, which is Van Dijk and Henderson. There was a lot of changes in the dynamic of the team. Maybe it affected morale. There's the ongoing rivalry with him and Salah, which I kind of said was going to come to a head. But, they weren't really looking for each other on the pitch. And I don't know, Mane just looked kind of tired and kind of burnt out. So the performances weren't there. And that's the surprising thing. Even beyond the stats, Mane didn't look as involved as I'm used to him, as I'm used to seeing him. And, a lot of the times, we expect, it sounds bad, but we expect Firmino to not give us the stats, but give us the involvements. Mane wasn't doing either. It was looking like, why are you there? for me. Again, I'm not a Liverpool fan. You can talk to Ryan LFC, Liverpool FC. You can talk to him about that. But yeah, he wasn't looking great. So I definitely have to give him biggest disappointment in the Liverpool squad this year. All right, moving across Merseyside. The next ball I want to talk about, I had a really disappointing season, was Richarlison. I thought with a full season under Ancelotti, we'd see a more clinical Richarlison. I don't know what happened. He was looking like he was going to take that next step like Mane did from Southampton to Liverpool. He was going to be, maybe 15 and 10 or something like that. But even though Calvert-Lewin had a up and down season, he is thoroughly outshined Richarlison. He runs a lot, but it isn't productive. Like, I don't think he's had as many assists. Goals are definitely not there. He still has that edge, and it might be a confidence thing in terms of his finishing, but yeah, the numbers are just not looking great for Richarlison. Again, that's a kind of FPL thing for me. In my initial squad to start the season, I thought I had a gem in Richarlison and stink up the place. So, yeah, definitely one of the biggest disappointments for the season there. Speaking of another big disappointment that we had hopes for, Aubameyang. This kind of came out of nowhere. I just saw the other day that this is going to be the 5th season in a row that Arsenal hasn't been in the Champions League. I didn't realize that, but I thought I could write it down that I was going to get at least 20 goals from Aubameyang before the season started. I don't know if it's another situation as what happened to Ozil, but the man signed the thing, right? As Troops would say, the man signed the thing, and the man relax. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. It's unexplainable. And then, between, the COVID and it was just a lot. And there's a little tension now building between him and Arteta. I don't know what's going on there, but I know a lot of the pressure. When you're used to getting that love and you start getting a lot more criticism, you start to bend. You start looking at the coach. Why I'm substituting me? Even though those were terrible, terrible substitutions in the Europa League and the other day. But yeah, Aubameyang, really, really, really bad season. Lastly, looking a little further down the table, I have to go with Rodrigo at Leeds. I didn't know anything about Patrick Bamford to start the season. I did a little bit of reading, and it was said that he's a wasteful forward. I was like, Rodrigo, classy dude at Valencia, had a down season, but he should easily be able to take Bamford's place in the squad. Nope, absolutely not. Rodrigo had, by my accounts, a terrible season. I know he had an injury in there, but to not displace a man like Bamford in a season where Rodrigo is trying to make the Spain squad. Bamford has, a long shot to make the England squad, but Rodrigo, you were involved. You want to... It just didn't really work out for Rodrigo. Moving from there, Ross Barkley, as a Chelsea loanee, just started a little hot, but it looked like him and Grealish had some kind of connection. It just faded hard. I watched a game the other day with him, and he looked terrible. He looked championship level. That's how bad he looked. That's the same to say as I wasn't going to mention players from teams that are already relegated, but Loftus-Cheek as well. Pause point your name first off. But I really like Ruben. Yeah, Ruben. But yeah, it's Fulham. I'm thinking he's going to go there and boss up the midfield and, do what he need to do. He went there and stunk up the place. More time it looked like him shouldn't even play. Had Ademola starring up things. So yeah, both those Chelsea loanees will look like they are on the way out the door from Chelsea this summer. Like, soon as them reach back, them just say, don't even try to pack out nothing. Have no locker here, go somewhere else. And lastly, Another player I had high hopes for in terms of fantasy, but in just real life, he's just been bad. And maybe it was losing another player in Raul Jimenez. And that's Acharya. He looked for certain parts of early last season, pre-COVID, like, this man looked like he finally took the next step. He's now playing for Spain. You know, he's unbeatable on the dribble, getting all those assists. But coming into this year, I don't know if it was a rotation thing. Maybe he was getting rest. But he was sleeping on the job, sleeping at the wheel for a majority of this season. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He was just bad. He's turning it on a little bit now to close the season, I guess, in a last-ditch effort to make the Spain squad. But damage is done. You just weren't looking that good. There's a ton of talent in Spain that are pushing for a place that you could have got. I thought this season would be his breakout season and he would be able to make a move to, maybe a Liverpool or something like that. And it maybe was a Jota move that threw him off, but he hasn't lived up to standard at all. But let me know what you think. I know I skipped a couple teams, and maybe there's some other players that you think had a worse season than the ones that I mentioned. Or if you think the ones that I mentioned didn't have that bad of a season, drop it in the comment section below. I'll definitely respond and clarify any thoughts that I have or any biases, because I'm not saying that I'm holier than thou and I don't hate certain players than I do other ones. But yeah, drop in the comment section below. I love the feedback. Again, you can definitely follow us on the One Name Sports IG. Just search up One Name Sports and I should be right there, green icon similar to the YouTube page. Thanks for all your support. Again, please like, subscribe, and share. Send it to your WhatsApp, send it to your Facebook. Love to hear the opinions of anyone that's willing to give it. Thanks again. Peace.